Abby and David, I'd love to have your guys' perspective on how do we get innovation in content. Eric talked about the different forces at play and the different ways where the money is coming from, but how do we ensure that we get this innovation so we get true content out there on behalf of the brands?
Well, I think innovation, what's innovative to one is not to another, right? But what I would say is, number one, you have to start with the right consumer insights and the right strategy for a brand to really differentiate themselves in the marketplace. But then what we find is a lot of the ideas people come up with are very similar in nature and very safe. Because, you know, a lot of brands will say, we're a conservative company. You know, we don't want to do anything too outrageous. And outrageous is different than innovative, right? So they view something that's out in left field a little bit, that's not right down the center, as risky, where in fact it's not. So it's counterintuitive. What we have found, our biggest successes, when you think about, you know, whether it's in the Motherhood or the Rookie we did for Degree and Fox to Poise and Whoopi Goldberg, the ideas were so different at their core, but they were based on the right insights and strategy. It really took someone with guts on the client side to put themselves out, right? Because if you think about it, you know, when we pitched Whoopi Goldberg inhabiting 8 historical characters talking about light bladder leakage and rewriting history, think about that pitch. The room was like, what? Are you kidding? Like, a couple people were like, that's brilliant, and a couple people were like, I don't get that. How is that relevant to our brand today in any way, right? It turned out to be a very strong campaign, biggest sales in 19 years, etc. But I think innovative, you really have to have great ideas, but you have to be talking to people on the client side who have the guts and the wherewithal to really want to do something differently and have the power to do it.
Right. So Abby, is it all about no guts, no glory?
I think it is about being bold, but it's also about bringing people with you without compromising the big idea. So you have to stand behind what you really believe will work, because if you get people to come along with you, but you've compromised the idea at the end of the day, nobody's happy with the result. So you have to be brave, but you have to be, you have to shepherd through this idea and navigate the political waters of all the different stakeholders, whether it's head of digital, head of brand, head of communications, CEO, CMO. And the other thing that I think people forget is that creating great content or great media partnerships doesn't break the bank. So you have to put forth ideas that aren't going to ask someone to commit their entire budget for the campaign, but you also have to invest enough that it's not just an experimental venture foray. And the other thing I think is so important is not just to sell through an idea, but to really bake it and to show people what it can look like. Because pitching a creative idea is one thing, but selling through a concept that's a TV show that has facets of social and PR and events. I mean, when you show them a fully baked idea that shows how many touch points there are, it's a lot easier to understand what you're buying, and it's not just an idea, but it's really a substantial program.
Got it.
I mean, I think she touches on a really important thing, which is if you look at the most interesting stuff, it takes co-conspirators. It takes everybody working together. The programs that are most powerful is when media and PR and creative and the content creators are all working together. When there's sort of one party that sort of drove most of it, it tends to be the least interesting thing because it drives to the strength of that one thing as opposed to the strength of all of it together.
But it's hard work when you have 15 people sitting in a room that are kind of each have their own take on it. Yeah. So you have to really show people what it is and go out and shoot something or go out and build a book about what that platform is, so that you can shepherd it through the process and make sure it stands as it was intended to be delivered.
Yeah, I think to that point, creative by committee is death, right? I mean, creative by small SWAT team, people empowered to rise and fall together, works really well. And that goes to the client to say, here's who's going to do it, here's who's going to work together, you're all in it together, because a lot of times in this world today, everybody says they can produce content. They can't. That's why the question came in. Why does most branded content, it's not so good? That's why. But when you have a client, and so it can be a scrum, literally.
Sure.
Think of the rugby scrum, when you have everybody pitching and jostling. So the client has to say, here's what we're going to do. You guys, here are the roles of each specific group agency person. So it's not by committee, but it's by SWAT team. And then everybody has to play well together and get it done, because then they're accountable. Then they can't point fingers. And that's when it works really, really well. And that's, part of the process we've developed over the past 8 years is just that. So it's like, if you want these types of results, here's the process, here's the roadmap that we've done before that works. But everybody is in it together and everybody's responsible. Not everybody likes that.
Right.
And to that point, I think a lot of clients are used to an agency, interagency team model. So this group's responsible for media, this group's responsible for creative, and now I've got PR, digital, social in the mix.
And many times it's multiple agencies as well.
Yeah, in multiple countries, if it's a global client, and that doesn't serve this idea of really an integrated SWAT team. Everybody's, it shouldn't be an either or, it should be both in concert.
Got it. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.